You're listening to the Jan Price Show, all about movies, and today my guest is Emmy Award winning filmmaker Matthew O'Neill and Dr. Judith Richter. And we're going to be talking about this absolutely beautiful, beautiful documentary entitled The Last Twins. Welcome to the show, Judith and Matthew.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Jen. Thanks for having us, and thank you for bringing attention to the film.
Oh, you're so welcome. And this is a very important film. Right now is the perfect time for this film to be coming out, I think, and so many lessons to be learned from it. Judith, since this is really your story, it's about your father, Erno Spiegel, and it has to do with the Holocaust and twins. I want you to give the audience a synopsis of what The Last Twins is about.
Okay, The Last Twin is about a group of twin children. The ages are they were at about 7 to 15 or 14, that were at the camp in Auschwitz concentration camp under the experiment, a medical experiment that Dr. Mengele did in trying to find some scientific findings. He nominated my father, that was a twin also, but he was older than them. He nominated him to be in charge of them. Now, it turns out to be, he didn't speak all the years, and it turned out to be that all of a sudden, at the beginning of the 80s, there was an article in the Life magazine because they were looking to get hold of Dr. Mengele that was hiding someplace in South America. And by chance, totally by chance, we got this magazine in our hands. And all of a sudden, we found the picture of my father. And there, the story was told. So that's how we learned. In more details, he was in charge of the children, but he saved many of them, not only by taking care of them in the camp, while he kept them as if kind of normal life, but also after. It was not his responsibility. He hasn't to do anything, but since the children looked at him as somebody who saved their life, they begged him to take them home after the war was over. Now, the war was not really over. It was over. It was on 27th of January, which is the time the Russians came over. But there was war all around Europe. But he took upon himself 36 children and walked all around Europe. The interesting point is that along the way, many mothers and children joined him because children were saying, okay, here are many children, at least I'll be with them. And the mothers were hoping that some of their children might join. Altogether, he started with a list of 36 and he ended with a list of 156. You can think about this walking group all around Europe, and he was taking care of everything with them. And we found out about it when I'm about, I won't tell exactly, but I was over 30.
It's just truly amazing that you had no idea. I have done a couple of other shows about documentaries about Holocaust survivors through the years. Today's my 9th anniversary of the very first show that aired on June 4th, 2016. And since then, I've done quite a few. And so many of the Holocaust survivors really never talked about it. And then finally, I think later in life, they feel that story needs to be told and opened up. And so I find it amazing that you didn't know. But that set you on a career path to find out more. So let's talk about your journey a little
bit. Can you repeat the two last words because I couldn't hear them?
Let's talk about your journey. Once you read that Time Life magazine article about your father, and you discovered, what he had done, that set you off to on your own journey of discovery. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. First of all, it was very shocking because you know your father for so many years and he's a nice, quiet man, very loved by people, but not using his voice too much. And all of a sudden, it's overwhelming to see the amount of bravery that was in him, the amount of humanity that was in him, that he hid it from us. Now, I grew up in a home that my mother kept telling us about her experience, but we also knew that we should not ask my father. So we knew that there is something someplace, but we would never ask because you don't want to hurt your father. And all of a sudden, this Life magazine tells me about my own home. So it was very strong and overwhelming experience, and some way brought me to look at my father in another kind of admiration. And all of a sudden to understand some of the values that he was preaching to us in a different way. The major one was that he always told us that the only thing nobody can ever take away from you, they can take away your house, they even sometimes can take the family and relatives. The only thing that they can never take away from you is what you have in your head, meaning what you studied, what you learned. And that brought me to have my own path of taking care of knowledge of others. So meaning that I took for a few years on me the path of creating some schooling program in which young people are studying. But again, since I'm now in industry, and I'm in industry that takes care of the heart of people, so my teaching is always about the heart, symbolically and practically.
Beautiful. So Matthew, how did you get involved with this story?
So this was a story that Judith brought to me and Perry Peltz and shared some of her journey and some of the filming that had been done over the years with the twin boys. And for us on the filmmaking team, we always think of them as boys. As you'll see in the film, The Last Twins, even though these interviews are with men in their 80s and their 90s, as they recollect these formative experiences from when they were 5, 7, 9, 12, they almost go back to being children. And when we first heard this story, we thought, how could this incredible story not have been told? It must not hold up to scrutiny, because our background is as filmmakers and journalists, and the type of documentary filmmaking we do has the rigor of journalism and historical accuracy, and it's very important to us. And as we began to explore this story with historians from the Auschwitz-Birkenau Memorial in Poland and others, all the pieces lined up and it was true. And it became an absolute privilege to bring together all of these stories and bring Erno Spiegel's incredible life and incredible heroism to life in this film. And that's what The Last Twins is. It's really a reminder now for all of us of how one person's actions, one person in what they can control, doing the right thing, can have profound effects in the world.
And Judith, you had said that they can't take away what's in your head, but they can't take away what's in your heart, more importantly. And obviously, your father had a huge heart, and he risked his life in many different ways in this story. Let's talk a little bit about lying. Let's also talk about why twins were so important. Why, Mengele, Dr. Mengele, wanted, twins got to live a little bit longer for specific reasons. Do you want to address that a little bit, Judith? I'm not sure everybody's familiar with why the Germans, and particularly Dr. Mengele, was interested in twins.
He was interested in a scientific knowledge and research, and you know, to have these two kind of guinea pig children that are born either identical or parental, and he could compare results. So he would take experiments on each of the set of twins, and he was extremely cruel. I prefer not to go into it. I think I'm similar in some ways to my father that would not tell us, but it would be some sense that he would take care of one organ of one of the twin and then the same organ from the other twin. And if one of them failed in the experiment, both of them will go to the crematorium because he was not interested. Now, you would guess that it's very valuable knowledge, but turned out to be by researchers that followed it. And I have one of my son he is a doctor and researched it, that it didn't have even any value, scientific value. Or even that I know that in the university, at least in Jerusalem, they are not allowed even to touch, and I think worldwide, they are not allowed to touch this knowledge. So the major thing is that was there to struggle also with mental existence for the children. And that was the part that my father took upon him. And he kept them being children as much as possible. And that's what they are telling us. He didn't tell us, but they now, when you research them, that's what they are telling.
And he even took them out in the fields and created a school for them and taught them, math and other topics, other subjects, and kept them mentally stimulated and sure that patients still took place. And that's amazing because each one of these twins, these boys in this film really went on, every single one of them went on to do amazing things and have amazing studies and careers that would not have happened had your father not imparted some of his knowledge to them. Matthew, it really is just a beautiful film. From beginning to end, it's just engrossing and it's so beautifully put together. Lots of documentaries are all over the place, but this really flows. It has a very wonderful structure to it. And I want to know, how difficult was it for you, because there's so much and the early part of this film of the archival footage. How hard was it for you to find that and to put this together? And we must mention Perry Peltz, who was your collaborator on this film, and unfortunately she's not able to do the interview today, but we really want to honor her too and her work in this film, because you two split it up, and she's also an Emmy award-winning documentary filmmaker as well as you. So can you tell me a little bit about how that all came about and how long it took you to find it?
So for Perry and I, this project really became a challenge, and that most of the storytelling that we've done in our documentary work are about things that are happening in real time in front of our cameras. And this was all things that happened in the past. But that challenge really became an opportunity because, as you see in the film, not only is there this incredible archive of material, some of which has never been put together in this way to show what was happening in each of these different places at these different times, but we also had the sort of chilling privilege of filming behind the scenes at the Auschwitz-Birkenau Memorial Museum and capturing those places as they are today and folded that to become part of the visual language of the film so that the audience can see where the children were, what they were experiencing, and what it is like now. We also had this incredible archive. We had a wonderful producer, Tom Dennison, and there's a particular moment, and I know that, Judith, you love this moment in the film, that took us almost 9 months to track down, but it's the only televised recording of when Erno Spiegel was reunited with one of the twins, Peter Samoji. And it was this incredible piece of archival material. And that was the challenge of this film, was the digging and the searching and the looking to weave this incredible story together into an arc. that the audience can go on a journey with.
And
I
how
want to add, I want to add one comment, which is important for me. The movie is not exposing the people, the observers, to cruelty. No, it exposes the viewer into ethical questions, ethical about humanity. It creates a question in your own heart. Would I have do this? Would I do that one? Meaning that I think that it's a movie to trigger people's thoughts. And as much as even youth, that's what I feel, from the age of 14 can view the movie. And I experimented it with my own children around and with a youth group. And there are very interesting discussions about what is human being, what are our obligations towards others, would we do this and that. So that's the major, from my point of view, that's a major part of let's say the results of the movie. You remember, you learn to admire the person, but you also think about yourself. Would I be like this or that?
exactly? And as we said, I think earlier, this is such a timely film with everything that's going on in the world right now, and particularly in our country. That it's important to get this. People don't even believe it happened. That's what just blows my mind. People have totally denied this even took place. And that's why it's important to get films like this out and have them be seen. Hopefully, this is a film that will be shown in schools. And I hope that that's part of the goal here, and later on with it. But it's just a timely film to be seen, and as I said, beautifully done. My other question is, how did you find the twins? How did you go about finding all these twins and then having them agree to go on camera to share their stories? Matthew, can you share that?
It's actually a question for Judith, because it's
Okay.
Judith's story of tracking down part of what you see in the film is her mission that she went on to discover the truth about her father and the details of the stories and the details of these twins' lives.
Exactly, that's exactly. And each of the twins, it's another. Once you start, you find one set of twins. They do remember who are the others. So it goes from people who lived in Hungary, in Budapest, one of the twins because his brother didn't alive anymore, and then to Switzerland, and then to Israel, then to the United States, to Canada. So we went all around, but one tells the other. But is amazing that they still felt belonging to the group. So they would share memories when they were really young, and it's 80 years since then, and they still were willing to collaborate. I know that there was once that one of the twins thought, I don't want to be part of it. And then the other one called him and said, do you know it's about Spiegel Bachi? That's the name. So I said, okay, so for Spiegel Bachi, I'm coming to give my testimony. It was very moving. His family also didn't know about it, and he came especially in honor of my father, Spiegel Bachi. Bachi means in Hungarian uncle. So that's how they called him, Uncle Spiegel.
Wonderful. But I would imagine it was like detective work, even to locate them all. I would assume, and each one was just their stories were so compelling. But the way you put it together, Matthew, the editing of how you interwove the stories and how you told the stories, and how you unraveled them, is just so well. It's just perfection as far as I'm concerned. It was just the way that you put it together. It's a beautiful, as I said, beautiful film. Uh, in this, then and a lot of these people, which I loved at the end of the film, had passed away after you did this. So how many years did it take to do this? And one just passed away in February, I believe.
That all but one of the surviving twins have died since filming. And it shows, to your point about memory and the importance in this time of misinformation, disinformation, and outright lies about 20th century history and the Holocaust, that the first person testimonials from the people who lived through that moment, these boys, now old men, or now having moved on and passed on, their first person testimonials about what happened to them are searing and important memories to preserve. And I think bringing them together to tell the story of the man who cared for them, the man who saved them, and the man who ultimately brought them home, Erno Spiegel, is what makes this special, because you're hearing this may be one of the last stories from the Holocaust that are told by the people who lived that story. And it's a really important, special part of this film that these boys were able to lend their voices and tell their stories and have it all together in one place to tell the story of Erno Spiegel.
Very much so. Judith, how did you find Matthew and Perry? Why did you choose them to give your story to? You know, it's like your baby. It's, you know, it's important that the person who's going to help birth it, you know, be somebody who's compatible with what you're doing. So, how did you find Matthew and Perry?
In some lunchtime, everybody was telling some personal story. I told my story and what you're doing. I said that I'm interested in doing this movie. One of the person connected me to Matthew and Perry. And I think it took me about a very short time to decide, okay, I'm going with these two people to this journey. I was surprised how easy, it was not easy, but it was very, almost natural, I think, because they read my words more than what they just say, but what did they mean? And I think that's what was the feeling. This question is very sensitive for me because I had to trust these two people that I don't know so much. It's the story of my life. It's also going into my own life to find out what is there. And it worked well. I think it worked well. You can see the results.
It worked well.
So I'm very grateful for that.
Yes. And had you seen any of their work that they had done before?
Not really. I knew about it. I heard about wording and so on, but I didn't really look into it. You know, when you ask me the question, I'm embarrassed. How did I trust my judgment so easily? But there was a nice chemistry, and I think the major thing was that there was a set of values, personal values that were common for us, and that's why we could work together.
Yeah, and it's also that intuition that we have. You know when something's going to work, and they're the right person to work with or not. So that goes with many things in our lives for sure. But Matthew, how long did it take to put this together? Let's start with that question.
It took the better part of a year and a half to put it together after a lot of the footage was gathered. We had a wonderful editor, Pat McMahon, and I do want to give a shout out to Lauren Veronis, who connected us all together, and it really made this happen, made this story come to life, and continues to make this story come to life, because I think she, like us now, having been exposed to Erno Spiegel's story, and I hope as people see The Last Twins, Perry and I hope that people learn about Erno Spiegel's story, see what he did to choose the right thing during harrowing, horrific circumstances. And what you were saying earlier, Jen, about people are feeling pressure now and that the life is difficult and there are a lot of things that are going wrong in our world and many of our points of view. But take inspiration from this man who, in the darkest part of the 20th century, did everything he could that was in his control to do the right thing and move the world in the right direction. And it's an example for all of us when we're feeling overwhelmed by whatever's going on in our lives, that you can, what you do have control of, the people you do interact with, bring them joy, make the right decisions, care for them, save the lives of children. And it does push our world towards a more positive place.
You know, I want to add to it one thing, that because you asked me before, how did we get to meet the twins? One of the things that my father, they told us that they forced them, was to learn the name of each other. Otherwise, they would be named by their numbers. And because he made them call name each one in its own name, they got more cohesiveness in their own group. And when they met later, there were, of course, names. Now, my aunt, the twin sister of my father, she didn't keep anything with the other. They were really anonymous, and they didn't keep any relationship. And that was one very interesting comment that one of the twins mentioned. He also told them to share things, for example. Okay, there was some habit there that the older one will not get any milk, but the younger one gets. So he made them to share with it. So there are more stories of that kind, that there was some kind of interaction there that was made with them, that he made them, and more self-respect about being a good person, giving to others. So, you know, I'm dealing in my professional life with hearts, mentally and practically. So I can appreciate what this organ metaphorically is doing.
And well, you've got your father's genes for sure, Judith. you have a big heart too. So yeah, it's just a beautiful story, and we don't have too many heroes out there real heroes that we can look up to, but we certainly can look up to your father, Spiegel, because he was a true hero. I really want people to see this film. It's just an incredibly important film. And so where can people see The Last Twin?
The Last Twin opens in New York City this Friday night, June 6th, at the Quad Cinema on 13th Street. And then it'll be in Los Angeles at the Laemmle Royal on the 19th, and then opening at the Town Center Laemmle for another week-long run in Los Angeles, and rolling out in cities and at film festivals across the year. And you can go to thelasttwinsfilm.com to get updates and reach out to bring the film to your city. Jan, thank you so much for featuring this work. We appreciate it, and you know, our hearts and our minds and our ambitions are with those twins and with those boys, and we continue to be inspired by Erno's example each day. So we're eager for the film to reach new audiences.
And thank you both. It truly has been an honor to have you on the show. I hope that this is, as I said earlier, and this is something that schools pick up, and that, you know, we start showing in schools. Also, the Holocaust Museum, we have several of them, obviously the one in Washington, D.C., but others also that we're screening this, and have private screenings at synagogues and places like that. In fact, we have the Jewish Film Festival coming up here in Santa Barbara. I will mention this film because it would be a wonderful film to screen, and that's coming up in the fall. So I will make sure I definitely do that.
Okay.
I wish you much success. It's a beautiful, beautiful film, and very important. Thank you both. It's my honor to have you both on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Take care.
You too. Thank you.